A man goes in for his routine checkup. No pain, no fever, nothing unusual. He just feels a little more tired than before. His blood pressure has crept up a bit, and lately he's been getting up once or twice at night to use the bathroom. Probably just getting older, he thinks. A week later, the doctor calls. Your kidneys are only working at 30%. This won't happen overnight, especially if you've been eating a lot of carbs for a long time. But bring it down gradually. And if you see the numbers start to drop, then spike again after a particular meal. That's your body telling you that meal pushed past what it can handle right now. Think of it like a tolerance test you're running on yourself, meal by meal. Some foods you thought were fine might turn out to spike you more than you expected. Others you were avoiding might barely move the needle. You won't know until you actually check. And once you know, you can build your plate around what your body handles well, instead of guessing. Habit 2. Processed foods. The second thing that damages your kidneys is processed food, especially anything loaded with phosphate additives. Stage 3B. They're hiding in soft drinks, in dried fruit. And that one surprises people. Dried fruit feels like a healthy snack. But it's not just concentrated sugar. Manufacturers add phosphates too. You'll find it in snacks, in deli meats. And here's a really common misunderstanding. A lot of people think that as long as they're eating low sodium, they're safe. So they reach for processed food thinking sodium is the only thing to watch. Chronic kidney disease. But hidden phosphate is the danger that gets overlooked the most, because in a lot of places, labels aren't even required to list the phosphate content. Processed food is also very low in nutrition. During processing, a lot of what your body actually wants gets stripped out. And on top of that, it's loaded with preservatives, artificial flavorings, and synthetic conditioners. Add it all together and you get a bigger phosphate load, more unhealthy fats, more toxins, and all of it becomes extra work your kidneys have to filter and detoxify. The solution is obvious. Stop eating processed food. Learn how to cook at home. I know this isn't going to happen overnight if you're used to fast food and packaged meals. No pain, but move toward it as fast as you can, and you'll notice the difference. Real food cooked at home isn't just better for your kidneys. Once you learn how to make it, it tastes completely different and better. There's also a practical trick here. Read ingredient lists, not just nutrition labels. If you see anything with phos in the name, like sodium phosphate, calcium phosphate, phosphoric acid, that's an added phosphate, on top of whatever's naturally in the food. It's usually buried near the end of a long ingredient list, exactly where most people stop reading. Habit 3. Overusing pain relievers. The third habit that damages your kidneys is regularly using over-the-counter nonsteroidal anti-inflammatories. Ibuprofen, naproxen, no warning, diclofenac. These drugs reduce blood flow to the kidneys. And when less blood reaches the kidneys, fewer nutrients, fewer building blocks for healing reach them too. This gets worse if you're also dehydrated, because now your total blood volume drops as well. So instead of reaching for these every time you're in pain, what should you do? Reduce the inflammatory load by eating whole food instead of processed food. That's step 1. Beyond that, there are natural ways to control inflammation. Turmeric is one of the most powerful, but you need a form that actually gets absorbed, not just the spice you sprinkle on food. Omega-3s matter too. Just a silent decline, building in the dark until the day it knocks on the door. Eat quality fatty fish, sardines, salmon, mackerel at least 3 times a week. And magnesium. If you're eating plenty of non-starchy vegetables and leafy greens every day, you'll get a decent amount naturally. If not, consider supplementing. None of this means you can never take a pain reliever again. Occasional use for an actual injury is a different situation entirely. The damage builds when it becomes a habit. The daily backache handled with a pill instead of addressing why your back hurts. The regular headache treated the same way week after week. It's the routine, not the occasional dose, that wears the kidneys down over time. Habit 4. Chronic dehydration. The fourth habit is chronic dehydration. If you're not drinking water regularly and instead relying on coffee, tea, and soda. And here's the part that's even scarier than his story. Picture this. It's like washing your car, covering it in soap suds, then trying to rinse it with anything but clean water. It's never going to actually get clean. When you're dehydrated, the concentration of waste in your blood rises. Your risk of forming stones goes up, and your blood gets thicker. Blood volume drops. Filtration efficiency drops right along with it, because there just isn't enough blood moving through the kidneys for them to do their job. The solution is simple. Drink clean water regularly. According to CDC estimates, out of every 10 adults with early-stage chronic kidney disease, close to 9 of them don't even know they have it. And if your job has you outside a lot, or you sweat heavily on a regular basis, it's a great idea to supplement with electrolytes, as long as it's a quality brand that balances all of them, not just sodium. A simple way to check yourself, without any fancy testing, is your urine color. It should be pale yellow, close to the color of lemonade. If it's consistently dark, closer to apple juice, that's usually a sign you need more water, more consistently, not just a big glass once a day. Habit 5. High blood pressure. The 5th habit is high blood pressure. This one's a vicious cycle. Weak kidneys can cause high blood pressure, and high blood pressure damages the kidneys even further. So, what counts as high? 9 out of 10. Normal is usually called 120/80, and plenty of places start recommending treatment once you cross 125 to 130. But realistically, between 120 and 140, the damage is minimal, unless you're already very insulin resistant, already have chronic inflammation, or already have type 2 diabetes. Between 140 and 159, risk starts climbing, especially over time. But the real danger zone starts once you cross 160. That's when there's clear, consistent damage to your blood vessels and your kidneys. Let me give you a scenario I see all the time. A man whose blood pressure sits around a 150/90 for years. He doesn't notice anything different. No headaches, no dizziness. So why? He assumes he's fine. Then a routine blood test shows his estimated filtration rate has dropped to 55. He never felt it happening. That's exactly why high blood pressure is so dangerous for the kidneys. Those tiny blood vessels inside them are incredibly fragile. High pressure creates constant friction on the vessel walls, hardening them over time, reducing their ability to filter fluid, and cutting off oxygen delivery to the cells that need it. And the kidney is extremely sensitive to hypoxia. Even small drops in oxygen can start doing damage. So how do you protect your kidneys from high blood pressure? The single most powerful thing you can do is reduce insulin resistance, because insulin resistance both contributes to high blood pressure and directly causes inflammation and damage on its own. Why can an organ be failing and not hurt at all? What about sodium? Sodium by itself doesn't cause the damage, but it can make high blood pressure worse if you already have other problems going on. So if you're already in stage 2 or 3A chronic kidney disease and you're also insulin resistant, that's when sodium deserves your real attention. And if your kidney damage has progressed further, it's not just sodium you need to watch. Potassium matters just as much. Here's the paradox almost nobody understands. Things that are perfectly fine for a healthy person become dangerous once your kidneys are compromised. A healthy kidney handles excess potassium with ease. A damaged one can't. It can't clear it out properly, and high potassium levels in the blood can become dangerous for your heart. The answer is simple. This is why if you're at stage 3B or beyond, you really want to be working directly with a nephrologist. They can track both sodium and potassium closely and tailor your diet to your actual condition, instead of relying on generic advice meant for healthy people. And here's something worth remembering. Blood pressure damage doesn't announce itself. You won't feel your vessels stiffening. You won't feel the oxygen delivery dropping inside your kidneys. The only way you'll know is by actually checking your numbers, both at home with a cuff and through blood work that looks specifically at kidney function. Don't rely on how you feel. By the time high blood pressure makes you feel something, the damage has usually already been building for years. Home monitoring is cheap and easy. A basic cuff, checked a couple of times a week at similar times of day. Your kidneys have very few pain-sensing nerves. It won't replace blood work, but it fills in the gaps between your annual checkup, and it can catch a slow upward drift long before it ever becomes a crisis. Habit 6. Sugar and fructose. The 6th habit is eating too much sugar. And here, I'm not just talking about the blood sugar effect. Because honestly, bread and rice, which are mostly glucose, can spike your blood sugar even higher than table sugar itself. The problem with sugar specifically is that it's 50% glucose and 50% fructose. And that fructose is what creates serious metabolic damage. You'll find it in condiments, in snack foods, in juices, in snack bars. Even things that look healthy, granola bars, protein bars, can be loaded with it. And if a product contains high fructose corn syrup, it's even worse, because the fructose content runs even higher than 50%. That fructose pushes your liver toward metabolic damage and fatty infiltration, what's called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, not like your stomach. On top of that, it raises uric acid. it increases inflammation. It raises triglycerides. And all of that interferes with kidney filtration, adding even more burden to an organ that's already under stress. If you're trying to reverse any kind of kidney damage, cut your sugar intake to virtually zero. And that includes fruit juice. Yes, fruit juice. In terms of the sugar that actually hits your bloodstream, it's essentially the same as added table sugar. Nutritionally and holistically, whole fruit is a lot better. But purely, in terms of the sugar load hitting your kidneys, they're about the same. Not like your knee. So if you want fruit, go for berries. They're low glycemic compared to most other fruits. And whenever you do eat fruit, make sure it's whole fruit, not juiced. It's worth saying this clearly, because it trips people up. This isn't an argument against fruit as a food. It's an argument against liquid sugar, stripped of its fiber, hitting your bloodstream all at once. Whole fruit comes with fiber that slows all of that down. Juice removes the one thing that made it slower to begin with. Habit 7, excess lean protein. The 7th habit is eating too much protein, specifically too much very lean protein. But first, I need to clear something up. There's a common myth that protein harms healthy kidneys. They can lose function slowly, year after year, and you'd never feel a thing. That's simply not true. The real risk only shows up when you're eating a lot of extremely lean protein with no fat attached. Think rabbit, deer, skinless chicken breast, eaten meal after meal with nothing else added. If your estimated glomerular filtration rate is already below 60, and you're loading up on that kind of lean protein, your body ends up producing a huge amount of urea and nitrogen waste. And that becomes a massive extra burden on kidneys that are already struggling. Here's why this myth spreads so easily. When a urine test shows protein, people assume the protein itself must have caused the damage. But it's actually the reverse. Protein in the urine is a sign of damage that already existed, not the cause of it. So if your kidneys are already leaking, you'll see protein in your urine, until you get a phone call like the one that man got. But the protein isn't the culprit. Instead of overloading on lean protein, eat whole food. Choose the tasty cuts, chicken and meat and fish that come with plenty of fat attached. Eggs, sardines, grass-fed meat. If you love game meat like rabbit or deer, that's fine too. Just make sure you're eating enough fat alongside it. And if your filtration rate is already under 60, it's worth moderating your protein intake somewhat. You don't need to be paranoid. Just don't go overboard. One more thing worth knowing. A lot of people trying to eat healthier actually swing hard toward the leanest possible protein. Thinking less fat automatically means healthier is not unusual. For someone with normal kidney function, that's not really a problem. But if you already have some level of kidney damage, that exact healthy habit, grilled chicken breast with nothing else, meal after meal, can quietly become one of the things working against you. Balance matters more than purity here. Habit 8, ignoring your lab markers. The 8th habit is not paying attention to your lab results. The most important marker is eGFR, your estimated glomerular filtration rate, calculated from creatinine in your blood. The second marker is BUN, blood urea nitrogen. If that spikes, it can also signal that your kidneys are falling behind. The biggest problem isn't having a bad number. It's never checking these numbers at all. And even when people do get tested, they only look for a flag, without understanding what the gray zone in between actually means. He's not unlucky. A completely dead kidney filters at close to 0. A normal, healthy kidney filters at around 90. In between, there are stages. From 90 and up, they call that stage 1, which sounds strange, because that's actually normal. Below 90 down to 60 is stage 2. And this is the part people miss the most, because your blood work can technically come back looking normal, even though you're already in stage 2. From 59 down to 45, that's 3A. From 44 down to 30, that's 3B. Exactly what the man in our opening story was dealing with. Below that is stage 4, from 15 to 30, and stage 5, from 0 to 15, when the kidney has almost completely shut down. He's just one of millions of people walking around right now, feeling fine, while a slow, quiet decline is already underway inside them. If you don't understand these milestones, it's very easy to end up like that man. No symptoms at all, until one day you find out you're already at stage 3, and you've missed the window when things were easiest to reverse. So get your blood work done at least once a year. And don't just look for a flag. Track every marker over time against the optimal range, not just the acceptable range. There are also warning signs at more advanced stages you should know, so you know when it's time to get checked immediately. Swelling in the legs or around the ankles. Extreme, unexplained fatigue. persistent, itchy skin, or breath that smells unusual, almost ammonia-like. Hello, champions. If you notice any of those, don't wait. Get to a doctor right away. And one more thing worth saying here. A single test doesn't tell the whole story. What matters far more is the trend. Is your eGFR the same as it was 2 years ago, or has it quietly dropped by 10 or 15 points without anyone mentioning it? That's the kind of pattern a busy doctor might not flag, but it's exactly the kind of pattern that catches problems while they're still reversible. Keep a simple record of your numbers every year and look at the trajectory, not just the single result. Habit 9. Chronic stress and poor sleep. The 9th habit is chronic stress and poor sleep. Maybe you're living in a constant state of anger, irritation, frustration. That's the worst combination because it's tied to negative emotion on top of everything else. Today we're talking about how to stop sabotaging your own kidneys. But there are also people who feel great about what they're doing and still burn the candle at both ends. Always going, going, going. Never giving themselves a break. Either way, your cortisol levels climb. Your body gets locked into a sympathetic dominant state, which shifts every priority away from healing. And that stress raises blood pressure too, which is already terrible for your kidneys. It also fuels insulin resistance and chronic inflammation. This is why stress and sleep deserve to be taken seriously. Don't just push through it, telling yourself, I'll manage another year like this. Make your bedtime a real priority. Your kidneys are an incredible piece of machinery. Give yourself permission to actually sleep enough, and learn a few techniques to shut off your stress response. Because you can have a brief moment of stress that floods your body with stress chemicals, and if you don't know how to turn that off, your body can stay in that state for hours afterward. Whereas if you know something as simple as slow breathing for a minute or two, you can bring that entire stress response back down to baseline. On top of that, consider adding meditation, movement, and time outdoors with natural sunlight. All of it genuinely helps. And don't underestimate how much this ties back to everything else we've already covered. Poor sleep makes you crave sugar and processed food the next day. Chronic stress makes your blood sugar harder to control, even if you're eating well. It's not a separate issue sitting off to the side. Every day, they filter about 200 liters of fluid. It's woven into every other habit on this list, quietly making all of them harder to fix if you ignore it. Habit 10, uncontrolled insulin resistance, and the 10th habit, the most important one of all, is having insulin resistance and doing nothing about it. Maybe you're simply ignoring it. Maybe you don't really understand what it is. Insulin resistance is the #1 cause of kidney failure. It's also the #1 cause of blindness and amputation. But specifically for the kidneys, it's the leading culprit. And here's the scary part. It starts causing damage long before you're ever diagnosed with full-blown type 2 diabetes. For decades, the medical world has been almost entirely focused on blood sugar. Diabetes gets monitored through blood sugar. That number sounds abstract, right? But by the time your blood sugar rises, you may have already lost 10, even 15 years you could have used to turn things around. By the time blood sugar is high, you're already deep into the full problem. So yes, you can track it with blood sugar. You should also track it with A1C, your 3-month average. But more importantly, track it with insulin, using a calculation called HOMA-IR, the Homeostatic Model Assessment of Insulin Resistance. It sounds complicated, but it really isn't. It measures both insulin and glucose, runs them through a formula, and now you're not just looking at blood glucose, you're looking at how hard your body has to work. How much insulin does it take to keep your blood sugar under control? That's the real measure of insulin resistance. Track it this way, and you can catch the problem decades before full-blown type 2 diabetes ever shows up. So picture this instead. The next issue is that most people don't know how to fix it. And a big part of that is that official organizations, like the American Diabetes Association or the National Kidney Foundation, still largely promote the old food pyramid. They've rebranded it, reformatted it a bit, but they still recommend getting 50 to 60% of your calories from carbohydrates. That can work fine for a young, active, healthy person. It can work for a very long time without ever causing a problem. But if you're insulin resistant, and if you already have kidney issues, that's not how you should be eating. You need to lower your carbs and increase your movement. So essentially, cut out almost all your sugar. Maybe leave room for a few grams a day, some berries, a square or two of dark chocolate. Keep it around 10 grams or less. 200 liters is about 400 of your typical water bottles. Lower your carbs. Cut out grains and starches. You can still eat carbohydrates, but they should come from leafy greens and non-starchy vegetables. Then build the rest of your plate around healthy protein, and fill in with fat until you're satisfied. The exact recipe will look a little different for everyone, because we're all different. But by tracking these markers, by learning more, you'll figure out how many carbs are actually right for you. And here's something worth sitting with. Insulin resistance doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't reverse overnight either. It builds up slowly through years of eating patterns, so give it real time to unwind. Some people see their numbers shift within weeks. 400 bottles. Others need months of consistent low-carb eating before the trend really turns. Don't judge it after 3 days. Judge it after 3 months, looking at the actual data, not how you feel on any given morning. So there you have it. 10 habits quietly destroying your kidneys. If you're feeling a little overwhelmed by all of this, I understand. So here's what to do. If you can only start with 3 things today, start with these 3. First, get your A1C tested and calculate your HOMA-IR. Don't wait for symptoms to show up. Every single day. Second, cut sugar and fruit juice out of your daily diet. It's the simplest change you can make, and it's also one of the most powerful. Third, if you're regularly reaching for anti-inflammatory pain relievers, stop and switch to the natural inflammation control methods we talked about earlier. That's it. Just those 3. You don't have to fix everything in one day. And remember the man from the beginning of this video. No pain, no warning until the day he got that phone call. But here's what I want you to walk away with. His story isn't a life sentence. Passing through 2 small organs sitting behind your back. At an early stage, even at stage 3A, there is a real chance to reverse course. Your body has a remarkable capacity to heal if you stop sabotaging it and start giving it what it actually needs. Early-stage chronic kidney disease isn't the end of the road. It's a warning, and you still have time to listen to it. I know right now you might be wondering if you're guilty of one of these 10 habits, maybe even several of them. Don't panic about that. Almost all of us at some point in our lives have fallen into a few of these. Eating processed food because we're busy, and it's not just filtering. Reaching for soda instead of water because it's easier. Popping a pain reliever without giving it a second thought. What matters isn't whether you've been perfect up until now. What matters is that you start changing today, before your body forces you to change the hard way. Your kidneys have been quietly working, filtering hundreds of liters every single day, for decades, without you ever having to think about them once. Now it's time to return the favor with just a few small changes made in the right places. None of this requires perfection. It requires consistency. Small, boring, repeated choices, water instead of soda, real food instead of packaged food, checking your numbers instead of guessing. None of it is dramatic. They regulate minerals. But over months and years, those small choices are exactly what separate the people who reverse this from the people who end up getting a phone call like the one that opened this video. If you found this video helpful, you're going to love the next one I made. And if you truly want to take control of your health, to really understand how your body works, hit subscribe, tap that bell, and turn on all notifications so you never miss a video that could save your life. Because the right knowledge, at the right time, can be the difference between reversing your condition and finding out everything when it's already too late. You don't need to overhaul your entire life tonight. You just need to stop doing the things on this list, one at a time, starting today. I'll see you in the next one. They balance the fluid in your body. They eliminate toxins that, left unchecked, would build up and poison you from the inside out. But they can only do all of that if you don't sabotage them. Now, here's who needs to pay extra attention to this video. If kidney disease runs in your family, if you've already got prediabetes or high blood pressure, or if you belong to a group with higher risk according to the epidemiological data, this one's for you. Today, we're going through the 10 most common habits that are silently sabotaging your kidneys. And more importantly, I'm going to tell you exactly what to do instead. Nothing on this list is exotic. You won't hear about some rare toxin or obscure condition. Every single habit here is something ordinary, something most people do without a second thought. That's exactly what makes this list dangerous, and exactly why it's worth sitting through the whole thing. Habit 1. Blood sugar spikes. The first thing that sabotages your kidneys is eating things that spike your blood sugar. Bread, especially white bread, but honestly, all bread tends to do this. Soda, pasta, pastries, and pressed fruit juices too. All of those, if you eat them regularly, are going to spike your blood sugar. And the problem isn't just the number on the meter. Every time your blood sugar spikes like that, even briefly, it's creating microvascular injuries inside your kidneys. It damages the glomeruli. That's the smallest functional unit of the kidney. Picture it this way. The glomeruli are like millions of tiny filters, thinner than a strand of your hair. They're fragile beyond belief. Now imagine every time your blood sugar spikes, it's like blasting a stream of hot water onto a delicate coffee filter. Once, maybe it survives, but do it over and over, day after day, and that filter tears. And here's the scary part. This microscopic damage starts happening long before you're ever diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. So, what should you do? Cut those processed foods out. Instead, eat non-starchy vegetables, leafy greens. Eat whole foods. Meat, fish, chicken, beans. And top it off with good fats to stay full and get enough calories. Butter, extra virgin olive oil, coconut oil, quality tallow, and lard. And don't just check your fasting blood sugar. Check your A1C. If it's above 5.4, there's a good chance you're spiking after meals without realizing it. How do you track that? A cheap glucometer, a little finger prick, checked 60 to 90 minutes after a meal. Or even better, if you can get a doctor to write you up for a continuous glucose monitor, you'll see exactly what your blood sugar is doing minute by minute, all day long. A good fasting number is between 80 and 90. After a meal, it shouldn't go over a 110. If it climbs past 110 but stays under a 130, that's the borderline zone. It means you're starting to become insulin resistant. If it goes above 130, that's a clear sign something needs to change. And here's something most people don't realize. Most doctors won't react to any of this. They'll tell you that up to 150, even higher, is perfectly normal after a meal. But the reason they say that isn't because it's actually safe. It's because so many people are already insulin resistant, already eating so much sugar and processed food, that those high numbers have become the new normal in the data they see every day. That doesn't mean it's good for you. So if you actually want to protect your kidneys, don't aim for statistically normal. Aim for optimal. Keep your post-meal blood sugar under a 110.